Hey guys, what is up and welcome to, it's hard not to laugh at this candle. Welcome to a new NVIDIA daily update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over NVIDIA stock. Let's go over what has happened to the stock, what we can expect moving forward, and I'll give you my thoughts moving forward as well. So ladies and gentlemen, as per usual, if you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice and I am not a financial advisor. And of course, if you do enjoy my technical analysis, thoughts on the charts, etc., I do share my thoughts with my members every single day the market is open throughout the whole trading day, obviously whenever an update is necessary. But as the market is trading, I'm constantly giving them updates and telling them what I'm thinking, what I'm seeing throughout the market. So again, if that's what you're interested in, that link is down below. For just $3 a month, you get access to all my thoughts, mainly on Tesla stocks, sometimes other stocks as well. But you also get access to NVIDIA daily updates for the $5 a month tier, which obviously also includes the $3 tier as well. The link is down below. We'd love to have you there. But yeah, let's just jump right into it. NVIDIA closing the day with a whopping 6.22% to the downside. Very aggressive selling pressure after that CES event last night, which we had a gap up this morning. In NVIDIA almost made, or did it make new all-time highs? I don't know if it actually made new all-time highs. Let me see what the high of this candle was. 152.89, 153. Arguably actually made new all-time highs. Fresh all-time highs, barely, but nonetheless at 153.13 today. Beautiful stuff. And then it pretty much sold off pretty aggressively, I will admit. So let's talk about it, right? Mentioned yesterday how, we had to close, but it was the most convincing close. We kind of technically held it, that 149 level, but it wasn't like convincing. If you go to the 4-hour, I think it was, the 4-hour chart, right? We kind of held it yesterday. It was looking pretty okay. Even in the 1-hour chart today, we kind of held it a little bit, but then we obviously completely and utterly crashed down below it, right? Pretty much no mercy shown to any of the Fomo chasers, right? Nice little push up in the morning and then just an aggressive sell off. You can see this is where we held it, right? On the 1-minute chart, we pretty much held it right at that level that I was talking about, 149, 150. And then obviously we broke down below. I actually did enter a trade here and then I obviously stop lossed it. So I think I entered at like 149, like 0.4 or something like that. And I stop loss at like 148.6, something like that. For good reason, clearly for good reason, right? Because, hey, when those levels get taken out, you got to be careful. You got to be careful, right? And that's just really what she wrote. So let's go to the daily candle here. This is a hilarious looking candle. This is, man, just yesterday, I think I was talking about in my video how, usually when the stock moves too far ahead, even from the EMA cloud, right? Not even the market buys, but even the EMA cloud, which is a very aggressive band that, again, it follows price action pretty tightly for sure. But when the price action is this far away from that EMA band, which is exactly what I was saying yesterday, more often than not, we either meet in the middle or the price, sometimes snaps back down to it. Right now, I mentioned also how, sometimes these stocks, what they like to do is they like to kind of reel in all these FOMO chasers, people that are just, buying the hype essentially after the stock has already been, kind of rocketing for the most part. They like to buy the hype, right? They like to buy the hype, the FOMO, etc. And sometimes stocks, man, they love to punish these FOMO chasers, man. They, a lot of people I'm sure got smoked today because they were FOMOing in. They were FOMOing in on the stock, right? And now the stock is back down and it dropped like $13 intraday. That's a lot. So this is exactly what I was warning about yesterday, right? Now, I didn't expect it. I'm not going to try to take full credit for it. I didn't expect it to be this fast and this aggressive. I thought if we would get the candle today, which I did think we'd get the candle today. I honestly thought we'd stop around the mid 140s. I didn't think we'd just blast all the way down to 140 again. I'm a little bit surprised I went that aggressively, but hey, that's just kind of how the market goes, right? So what does this mean moving forward though? That's the question I'm sure a lot of people are asking. Okay, cool. We more or less predicted this price action, but what now? Like, what's next, right? So one thing I want to notice is I want to take off every single indicator for now. And the first thing I want to pay attention to is this, right? Whenever NVIDIA usually has these really, really scary red candles, not always, but more often than not, it follows up with at least some level of a bounce. Now, it's not necessarily always a pure bottom bounce and we just go up from here. That's it. Hey, problem solved. But at the very least, a dead cat. At the very least, almost like a small little dead cat to kind of relieve the pressure of the selling that was occurring today, at least to some extent in the next day. For example, right? We had some pretty spooky looking candles right here. This was a nice looking aggressive red candle. The next day you can see, we did get a bounce. We got a bounce. The candle itself was red, but we still ended up higher than the previous day's close. So that's a bounce, right? And we actually made the bottom not that long after. Same with this candle here. Nice looking spooky red candle, a little bit of elevated volume as well. And then we bounced. And this was actually the bottom, but nonetheless, we had the bounce the next day. Same with this massive looking red candle and elevated volume. also ended up being the bottom. And then we bounce, regardless of the next day is what I'm trying to say, right? It's not always the bottom, but the point is the fact that more often than not, the day after ends up being a bounce, right? And, you know, again, many instances. Now, again, it's not perfect. Not every single day was like that. Like, for instance, you can argue this one, you know, we did technically actually bounce pretty aggressively. It just didn't really stick very aggressively or very, you know, nicely, I guess. But the point is the fact that more often than not, these very aggressive, very kind of just, you know, ugly, like hideous looking red candles that are kind of scary looking, really, ultimately. This one is a bit scary looking, right? It's like, wow, that is, man, that is a very ugly candle. Holy smokes. Usually these kind of candles lead into a short-term bounce, usually the next day. Now, again, I'm not saying this is going to happen tomorrow. I mean, just, again, the odds are in that favor, at least from the past experiences of the stock. So I figured I'd mention that really quickly. So let's see how that plays out. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we get a bounce tomorrow to like 144, 145, and then we'll see. And then we'll see how that happens, or, you know, what actually happens with that moving forward. Now, moving back to the indicators, right? I want to bring out my three main indicators. Again, I feel like these three indicators on the chart plus RSI and stochastic, I don't need anything else. Truly, I think that's literally all you need. I can probably even remove one of the bands ultimately. But nonetheless, so what is the situation, right? The market bias and the EMA band obviously were red for quite some time over here. We've been talking about that for a while. Now we ended up going above it. We made higher highs, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You can't even argue this is a bear flag because, you know, it's just not how bear flags look. But we ultimately started making higher highs and higher lows. And now we're essentially in the process of, seemingly at least, trying to put in a higher low, right? That's going to be the goal right now for NVIDIA. Put in a higher low. I think it will, of course, but that's the goal, right? That is the plan moving forward. On top of that, we have both bands now have officially turned green. We have, of course, the EMA bands, right? Which, remember, I talked about just yesterday. We were too far away from it. Hey, we're right back into it, just like that. Almost as if the last 2 days pretty much didn't happen. So we're back right into that EMA band, right? Which is good. And we're also right back into the market bias. So both of these should, in theory, of course, act as pretty much a double support type area around this 140-ish range. We could go a little bit lower to like maybe 137, 138, but around this 140, I do see some, give or take a couple of dollars, some pretty powerful support with these bands. We essentially reverted back to the mean, or at least very damn close to it on the Bollinger Bands as well, with the white line in the center. You can kind of see it right there, right? Which is currently sitting at 137, which is why I said maybe 137 still, but I don't see much lower than that. And, you know, ultimately, you know, there should, in theory, of course, nothing is perfect. You never know for sure. But in theory, you know, there should be a decent amount of support coming in at these overall levels. On top of that, if we just take away the indicators one more time, let's go to the 4-hour chart. The picture could be a little bit more cleaner here, if you will, right? We have this gap fill down here also at 138. Could go that low as well, right? Just keep those levels in mind. That is a possibility. But, you know, ultimately what you want to be looking at on the 4-hour chart here, or even let's say the 1-hour chart, maybe the 1-hour chart shows a bit more of the price action, so it's a little cleaner even. But what the 1-hour chart should show here is the fact that you can see, right? If I zoom in like this, and I take the price action and make it look like this, right? You can see how many times this level right here, look at this level. How many times has this level resisted the stock? Here, 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 here. And then finally we broke through. But 1, 2, 3, 4, pretty much 5 times arguably. Maybe even 6 if you count this one here is kind of a slightly different instance. It resisted us. It didn't let us pass that low 140s level. And now that we finally did that on, you know, obviously slightly more elevated volume, what do you naturally, again, nothing is perfect, but just from, you know, what in theory, at least I should say, should happen next? Well, this area that was a massive area of resistance right here should act as a support, right? Just that simple. If I can even take this and maybe it looks a little bit cleaner, right? Look at this, beautiful, right? Look at that, right? Just sometimes it could be that simple. We'll see, of course. Obviously, nothing is guaranteed, right? We don't know for sure. Maybe the market has other plans in mind. You never know, man. You never know. But just the way I look at it, RSI in the 1 hour, oversold. Stochastic, oversold. Right into support, right on the daily bands support area, reverted back to the mean. So we're no longer overbought, like ridiculously, which is great. So, man, if this is a spot to bounce, or rather, this is the spot to bounce. Like if there is a spot for us to find some buying pressures and to, you know, slow down the bleeding, this, my point is the fact that this is it. This is more or less we're around that area now. So let's see if the market decides to do it or not. But that's kind of the overall perspective that I have on NVIDIA right now moving forward. I'm sure a lot of people are panicking with this candle, and yeah, it is a scary candle. I won't lie. It's a bit of a scary candle. It's pretty spooky, but sometimes it is what it is. bring out all these indicators. Beautiful. So yeah, that's kind of my perspective. Now, the one concern I would potentially have here is the fact that the stochastic on NVIDIA is on the verge of flipping, right? It's not flipped bearish yet, of course. There could still be absolutely more pressure to the upside. This hasn't flipped, but it's pretty close. It's pretty close. So if this flips bearish, that would be a bit of a concern. Now, the thing with this flipping bearish though is that this flipping bearish doesn't always necessarily mean the stock has to be actually bearish, if that makes sense, to the point where it sells off aggressively, especially. That's not always the case. What it can also mean at times, which I think will be the more likely outcome here, is the fact that, the bullish pressure has kind of dried up, but it doesn't mean that the bearish pressure has necessarily increased either, as long as we hold these, pretty important support levels in the bands as support as well. And what it ultimately can mean is just sideways action, sideways price action, and just letting us know that, hey, we're probably not ready to go anywhere, crazy higher anytime soon, or at least for the, short term, if you will, but most likely get some, sideways price action between about 140 to potentially even as high as 150, and just get some sideways price action in that range. Just do our thing in there and let the stock cool off a little bit after this, pretty volatile last 3 days, you can argue, right? Massive gap ups into a massive sell-off that erased that whole double gap up. So usually when the stock, from my experience, has these very kind of, tantrums, if you will, is throwing these tantrums, very volatile price action the last 3 days, it's not uncommon for the stock to almost like imagine like a kid that's screaming and, waddling around very aggressively, just, or just someone that's really pissed or just having a tantrum or just whatever, right? They're just very aggressive and very unhappy. Sometimes it's best to just leave them alone. Just leave them alone. Let them cool off, right? Just let them cool off. Let them calm down a bit. That's kind of what's happening with the stock, in my opinion, right? It's having that tantrum. It's pissed. It's just, man, it's just, a lot of emotions, right? But usually when these emotions are done and the stock can finally, calm down, essentially, that's where we get that sideways price action. And we just really do a whole lot of nothing, again, between 140 to potentially as high as 150. And that's my current projection. That's my current quote unquote guess, if you will. I think we go sideways. And I think that's just, it can be the stock having a chance to kind of calm down, let the price action kind of unfold a little bit more, and we'll get a better idea as to what we can expect moving forward. But yeah, that's overall my perspective. Anyway, jumping to the options flow on Cheddar Flow, link down below if you're interested in Cheddar Flow. Great option service with my link. You can also get a discount. Check it out. The bulls absolutely decimating the bears today. The bulls have been buying this dip pretty much all day, very aggressively as well. And this time it adds up because you can see here, NVIDIA is also on the most bullish confirmed flow. Only 12 million, but still compared to yesterday, we saw like 300 million bearish confirmed flow. That was concerning. But, at least, they're both on the bullish side today, right? Both option services are on the bullish side today, which is a good sign. So thankfully we have that going for us, which is good. But nonetheless, the bulls have absolutely been buying this dip. So let's see what tomorrow brings. Don't forget, Thursday, the market is closed. And yeah, let's see. But all that being said, thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.